Alright everybody, welcome back to another Xvault gaming video. Xvault here, and here I'm delighted to bring to you my official review for Marvel Rivals. Yes, if you haven't been living under a rock, this is the next big multiplayer game that has taken the world, so to speak, by storm, with a high player count of over 480,000 active users, and that's just on Steam alone. So, let's go ahead and jump to it. Alright, so like I said, what we're going to do is get to this review of Marvel Rivals. This is a personable review to me, and hopefully it relates to everyone out there. Now, let's get out of the gate here. This game ended up being fantastic. I do have quite a few hours into this in regards to not only the beta from this summer, but of course tons of hours already at the time of this recording. Have been able to play every single character, and pretty thoroughly as well. Played with competitive mode that unlocked, messed around with the battle pass, all that stuff, which we're going to get into as well. But let's start off right from the get-go here. What is this game? This is a team competitive shooter game, much akin to Overwatch, except what? What's the difference? Well, instead of a first-person game, this is a third-person game. Absolutely a fantastic third-person team game. Now, what's great and what made Overwatch so special, and yes, there's going to be a lot of comparisons here because that is the latest type of team shooter that there has been, so there's going to be a lot of comparisons, but what we have here is the beginning, like we remember from Overwatch, right? It was fun. It was fun because characters were kind of broken, but in this case, in Marvel Rivals, it's not entirely broken to where you can't work around it, to where like, oh man, this person's picking this character, we're not going to be able to do anything here because they can totally control the match. No. Everybody, even with the lower, I would say if we're creating a tier list right now, even with the lower tier list characters, you can find ways to get around and make that match work for your favor for that big win, right? That big W that you're looking for. So just getting that out of the gate. Now, this is a pure Marvel licensed IP, so most of us out there, even the casuals, are going to be very aware of who these characters are for the most part. A few, you may not be, like not even me, as big of a Marvel fan I was, and I apologize, but I did not know who Jeff the Shark was. I might have seen him in odds and ends places in comics and whatever the case is, but I never once knew who Jeff the Shark was, or Luna Snow. Now I'm intrigued. Each character in this game, not only if you are a fan of these guys or you haven't heard of them, you can look into their backstory. Each character has lore. This game is very in-depth and does a fantastic job at really juxtapositioning the fact of what you're doing with these characters, right? You get to see what they're all about, you get to see what their support role is, if they're a tank role, which they call Vanguard, if they're a DPS role, which is a duelist, and of course, like I said, with the support role being a strategist. So you do have those three similarities, again, to like Overwatch, but in this case, they're called a little bit differently right there. In addition to this, every character feels truly, truly unique. They all have different varying abilities. Not one person plays even somewhat similar to another. You can make comparisons to these characters from Overwatch to a point. There, of course, is going to be some similarities there as well, but I think they really own in on the craft here in regards to, let's just get the big one out of the gate here, in my opinion, which is going to be Hanzo versus Hawkeye. What are the similarities here? Very similar, but I feel like Hawkeye has more going for him. He has more of a toolkit that works for him as well, and he just feels fun like the old Hanzo used to be, not the new, tampered down or watered down version of what Hanzo's known to be today, where he can be fine and do his shots and everything like that. But as Hawkeye, you can have a lot of fun. You can feel a little OP'd, and that's where I bring it back around again. Every character can feel a little bit OP'd. It doesn't matter who you're playing. If you get it to work right and work in your favor, you're like, this is totally broken, but it's fun. Hopefully it stays that way as patch after patch comes through, as season after season comes through. That's what we're looking for, is that fun factor, and that's what I'm seeing here. And I'm telling you right now, I have a very hard time putting this game down, and that is unfortunate news for my current and even older backlog. But great for this game and great for me because I like to have fun, and that's what games are about. Now, that being said, let's get this out of the way. What are we looking at in regards to graphics? Well, it's kind of cel shaded, but it looks so good and crisp and clean. And guys, I can tell you right now, from the beta to now, and that was only a 3.5 month turnaround time, not quite 4 months when this was released from the summer beta, And they cleaned up so much, not only with the DualSense controller adaptability, the rumble features, the crispness, the frames per second, the stability of the network, you name it. There's some odds and end bugs like the in-game chat for, normal stuff. If you're not hooking up to Discord or you're not doing a party chat through Xbox Live or PlayStation Network, you're going to have some jumbly effects there. That's a little downtrodden piece of that there. But aside from that, not a far cry. Most of us do use either Discord or one of the console, servers there, right? Now, again, this game is available for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and PC. This is not available on the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, or Nintendo Switch. We have yet to hear if this will come out for the Nintendo Switch too, because we just don't know that much going on right now at this time of recording in regards to Nintendo's next system. In addition to that, not only does everything look great in the graphical department, the maps look great, they function fantastically. Why? Because they are also destructible. That puts in another layer of strategy there. You want to destroy those, you want to not destroy certain parts of the buildings that are able to be destroyed. Now, not everything's able to be just, absolutely demolished, but a good chunk of the map and set pieces can be broken down. This adds another layer of strategy to each and every battle. In addition to that, what it does, which I almost wish it didn't, but it does also after a certain amount of time, will rewind time itself. That's kind of the theme here a little bit, and fixes itself. So you'd have to destroy or break down those, structures or barriers once again. So I do wish they would just stay down at that point. I see that kind of being redundant, but I understand the, in a way, plot point or synopsis behind why it does that, but I do wish it would stay down. We'll see what happens with that in the future. Now, in addition to that, the large roster here we have from the get-go, from launch date, which did launch on December 6th, we have a total of 33 characters on the roster. That is very large. Plenty more to come, plenty more that was leaked. I won't go over those leaked characters. That's not what this review is about, but we may touch base on that in a future video. But really a fantastic set of roster characters and IPs that they brought from all over the Marvel universe, and I think that is really fantastic. In addition to that, they do want to say that we do have a lot more DPS or duelists, if you will, than we do the Vanguard tank roles or the support healer type of roles with the strategist, right? So keep that in mind. That's why you're going to see a lot of duelist or DPS characters being chosen, and that might give a little bit of an imbalance if you're not teaming up with folks, because if you do go in, it is open queue, which means anybody can pick any role, as opposed to a role queue where you're signified to pick one or two tanks, one or two strategists, or, only two duelist DPS, right? So keep that in mind, and maybe they'll work something in for the role queue, but I also think that it gives you the opportunity to just really mix around those roles. But Overwatch, again, comparing it to, is it does have the option to do role queue or open queue, but most people are gravitating towards that role queue because they just don't trust random folks that they go with, because people ultimately want to be selfish a little bit, right? So you just want to take a step back and be like, all right, how do we just kind of implement better team play? That doesn't necessarily always mean you need two tanks, but most of the time you might, or whatever the case calls for, right? But I think that's where some of that got taken aback, right? With Overwatch, you have, of course, the role queue, and then you have the open queue, where it's a little more favored on the role queue. When I say a little bit more, I mean a lot more. So it leaves open queue far and few to be desired, and stuff like that, and it just really doesn't work with the meta with what Overwatch is doing. So we'll see what happens in Marvel Rivals future in regards to role queue or no role queue going forward, as we see. On top of that, we must hit up the season pass, the battle passes. What does that look like? Is it any good? How does that work? Well, without making this another 20-minute video just talking about the battle pass, I will tell you that it is looking to be the standard battle pass. It's going to be about $9.99 each season. Each season lasts around 3 months or so. And that may change just depending. I know right now that's kind of the theme of things. Right now, starting off at the time of this recording, we have Season 0. It's going to be the length of a half of a season. So it's only $5 to pop in that battle pass there. Now, I think this is great too, because you can totally grind these out. Do these challenges, you get gems and stuff. So it's not all about just leveling up. You play and you level up. Not necessarily. You will have dailies, kind of like Fortnite. except for just doing anything in Fortnite and you level up. You really have to focus on these challenges or these dailies or seasonal events or weekly events or whatever the case is. That's where you unlock that specialized XP to progress further to get these gems and other types of gems that help you purchase things in the battle pass. Now, that does seem a little daunting and it is a little bit more grindy than normal. I hope they do tweak this in the future just a little bit. But another beneficial piece to this here is if you do buy the battle pass, you do purchase that one way or the other, in-game currency because you earned it naturally, as grindy as that was, or you just purchase that outright. You do own that battle pass forever to try and unlock. That means if a new season does come up, you still get to work on that previous battle pass at your leisure. You don't have to hurry and rush yourself to get that done. So keep that in mind. I think that is a fantastic thing, and I think all games as a service need to look at that. Those that have battle passes need to look at that because you've been put on notice. That is the best way presentable there to the consumer. So I think that's a big W there as well. Now, are we looking at, my big thing is algorithms, matchmaking, stuff like that. At the current time of recording, it's going to be all over the place. Competitive just started, right? What does that look like? Is it good? Again, real similar to Overwatch, where you're going to have a chance, if you're doing or pushing a payload of some sort, you're going to be able to attack and defend to get an opportunity on both ends of the ball, so to speak. You do get that opportunity to do so. Aside from the capture point maps and stuff like that, that's just, best out of 3. Right now, it is very difficult in competitive rank because even the best of the best are starting from the bottom tiers of bronze right now. And it goes all the way up. So it might be more beneficial to you out there if you're maybe not high on the skill level, which nothing wrong with that, but if you're not super high on the skill level here on that, it might be best just to wait a month or two, let these great players get to where they're supposed to be ranked, and then you can, compete competitively within your skill level, depending on where that's at. So just keep that in mind. If you try rank, just forewarning, at this point in time of recording, again, you might have a little bit of a harder time just depending on who you're grouped with and who your teammates might be. So just want to point that out as well. Now, what does the future of Marvel Rivals look like? It looks fantastic. Like I said, I know a bunch of leaks for characters that are going to be coming out, and that's going to be great. They're going to constantly bringing out new maps and new characters every season, so that's great. I just can't wait. We could have fun by creating a 30-minute video or more of all this wish list of characters who we think will come in next, and I think anybody is on the table. When we get people like Jeff the Shark, when we get people like Luna Snow, we even got the invincible, unbeatable Squirrel Girl entering the fray this early into the game. If you're looking for Green Goblin, if you're looking for Carnage, if you're looking for Ghost Rider, one of my favorites of all time. If you're looking for Deadpool, Ant-Man, all that stuff, more than likely those guys are going to be coming at some point in time, and even more so the more niche characters like Kitty Pryde, perhaps, or whatever the case may be, Jackal, whatever, right? Anybody from Hydra, you could do Bullseye. The sky's the limit in this game, and that's what makes this game so fun, is knowing who's possibly coming to the roster, knowing what maps you're going to do. What's great in addition to all this too, folks, is there's a little bit of a story here. There's a little bit of a story on why this is all going, why all these characters and heroes, anti-heroes, villains are all working together or against each other, is to stop Doctor Doom 2099. And the original Doctor Doom was trying to stop him, and all this stuff happened in multiverse, this and that and the other. But it's not super convoluted. You don't need to pay super hardcore attention, but it does have a story to it, and it's really fun. They have comic backgrounds. They have stuff added to the story. Every season is going to be more of a story feel like Fortnite is doing, right? Not so much like, here's a new season, here's a character or a map, and have fun with that. That's, here's a couple voice lines, right? Wink, wink, Overwatch. Here's a couple voice lines that kind of push the story along a little bit, right? No, this is completely in-game. They have great story stuff. There's going to be events. There's going to be all sorts of stuff. Even right now, there's a tournament event for competitive for those that do want to partake into that. I think that's great. They're hitting the ground running. It's doing great. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, at this time of recording, they hit a concurrent all-time high of 480,000 over that. As far as their peak high, and it's been staying in the 300s or so consistently, if not in the 400s when it's the prime playing time, and that might increase as time goes on and word of mouth goes out. So now, that's kind of your brief overview of everything. I don't want to go too much further in depth in regards to everything else, but what is my opinion on this? Like I said in the beginning, this game has been fun from the beginning. From the beta, is broken to some things where it just kind of felt flat on the hits and hit detection or the sound effects or whatever the case is. They just totally cleaned that all up. This is a completely free-to-play game, and yes, I know it's a games as a service game, and yes, you're going to have to pay for this and that for costumes and skins and whatever the case is. However, you don't have to. That's what makes this nice, and this game is super pristine quality. Now, ultimately, I've had a ton of fun. I can't put this down. When I have a game that is a ton of fun I can't put down, that's high on my record and recommendation for anybody else out there. So I do ultimately have to give the score here. We're going to go ahead and give this a 9 out of 10. It's not flawless. I would love it to be. I think it's so close, but minimal stuff. For example, like I said, the voice chats, and there's been a crash or two, but you restart, you're back in it. So there's just a few little bugs, but as hardcore as the servers have been hit, it's been very stable, haven't been kicked out really or anything like that. It's really just a fantastic time, and like I said, there's not one character where you're like, I just can't play this, and there's somebody for someone somewhere within that roster, and this game is fantastic. Even if you haven't played team shooter games, even if they're not your jam, I promise you to check these out because there are a lot of melee characters, there's a lot of FPS characters, there's a lot of strategist type of stuff going on. I think this game could be really for everyone if you just give it a chance, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed whatsoever. So that being said, like I said, 9 out of 10, I think it totally deserves it, and I definitely stick with that, and I think this game is only going to go up from here, so we'll see what happens. Just remember, way back when Overwatch was a ton of fun, then ended up being Game of the Year, so this could have potentially been the same thing, given the context of stuff, and this is just at its most fun, and hopefully it just gets better, and it takes those cues and everything of where Overwatch dropped the ball, and it continues to run with the ball it has and just continually do better. That being said, I appreciate it. If you made it to the entirety of this video, I appreciate you. Hopefully you found this review helpful. Go check it out. Again, free to play. Really appreciate that. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and we'll see you next time on the next Xvault Gaming video. And until then, take care.